Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 66. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How'd you enjoy the national championship game?
I enjoyed Pilot Pete on his flight for love.
Yeah, how did his unmasking or whatever go? Did he win or?
Well, it was just the first night. They start with 30 girls and eventually go to one. The show's too long. It's 3 hours though. It feels like a national championship game. They gotta tighten that show up a little bit.
Oh, you mean that was the one show? That's
the premiere. It's a whole season.
Oh, I thought it was like the season finale or something.
No, season premiere. We're just getting just in time, Dave, for you to hop on board.
Oh no, I'd much rather sit through Dancing with the Stars.
Is Ryan Shazier going to be on Dancing with the Stars?
You know, I don't think we talked about it, but dang it, you know, and you're gonna send me down a rabbit hole with that today too.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? If he's not able to play, you know, for whatever reason or return or whatnot, it would be, I'd tune in for it. You know, he's charismatic enough, and his backstory obviously fascinating and all like that. I think it'd be interesting to see him be on Dancing with the Stars. So I wouldn't say I'm necessarily rooting for it, but I'd watch it.
But there's no update because I know he was being considered. They had said, but they haven't announced any sort of cast.
It was just a blurb on one of I think it was Variety, or I forget the name of the rag, the entertainment rag that was listed in. But it did seem legitimate that he was being considered as a candidate. So that's the last I've heard on it.
Gotcha. We'll let you know if that changes. To jump into Steelers news right away here for this Wednesday, Steelers have made...
real quick, while we're talking about it, about Ryan Shazier and why it's on my mind, because this wasn't kind of on our list to go over today. There is people ask what's going to happen with him this offseason. Of course, his contract told last year, and that was look, we were out in the forefront on that, right? Saying that was going to happen while other media members said it wasn't going to happen, and those kind of things. And it did toll. Now, with him spending yet another season on reserve PUP. It's a unique kind of situation because this kind of thing usually doesn't happen. I reached out to Joel Corey a couple of weeks ago, former NFL agent, writes for CBS Sports, which, by the way, if all of you aren't following him on Twitter right now, you're doing it wrong. Obviously a huge, mentor to me, salary cap wise, and just really a wealth of knowledge, just business side of football overall. But I asked him just to double check, is there a possibility of Ryan Shazier's contract tolling a second consecutive year? And he wrote back to me, he says there isn't anything in the CBA that prohibits a contract from tolling more than once. He goes on to say he's got a $473,000 split salary this year, meaning the 2019 that we just came out of. It would be a nominal salary cap charge in 2020 if he does. So assuming his contract does toll again this off season, it would likely do so in an amount of $820,000. Should however he be unable to play again in 2020 on a tolled contract and ultimately be placed on reserve PUP once again, such a transaction would likely result in him earning another split salary, which in his case would likely be $488,000 this year. So, I think we even have a question in the email bag here about what's happening with Ryan Shazier and all like that. We don't really know, and I don't think we're probably going to get a more kind of definitive update until maybe Kevin Colbert talks at the scouting combine in late February if somebody's smart enough to ask him a question about Shazier at that point. But not guaranteed here, but at least from what Joe Corey sees in the CBA and what I've tried to look for in the CBA, there's nothing that would prohibit his contract from tolling again. Should he not be ready to return to play? Now, the Steelers, I don't think they placed Ryan Shazier on reserve PUP last year until right after the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was early May or late April or whatnot when they made that move to him. Because of obviously if his contract told he'd be part of the 90-man roster, that kind of thing there. So we'll learn more about that, I'm sure, in a couple weeks. I know a lot of people have Ryan Shazier listed as a unrestricted free agent this offseason. But I kind of push back on that right now because I think that his contract might toll.
I agree. I believe it is going to toll. I don't know exactly where the future lies with Shazier, what his intentions are, what the team's intentions are, but I don't expect him to be unrestricted. I expect that contract to toll, and if they want to play out the same scenario as last year, then I think that's the direction that they would or at least could go.
And I think something to do with the pinch, and there's so many levels you could probably go down this thing trying to research it and all, and it'd probably be a great question for somebody to ask Kevin Colbert come the time. What extra, obviously he gets to split salary if he's on reserve PUP and that kind of thing. So, it's not the full 800,000 or whatever. And even going back to prior to the last, that's why people say, well, the Steelers restructured his contract as such a kind thing that they did. Well, they pretty much had to do that or else his contract was going to toll at whatever that $8 million,
$8 million, yeah.
Fifth-year option was going to be. I don't want to take anything away, diminish what people are trying to call it. Nice. Look, they've carried him this long. I mean, that means a lot and all. But I mean, let's make sure we call it what it was. It was a business decision on top of it, so that his contract would be able to toll at a lower amount. I'm sure there's some sort of pension and benefits. The longer that he can maybe stay around, on an NFL roster and that kind of thing. So once again, hopefully we'll get maybe a little bit more clarity on Ryan Shazier's an update on where he's at in his rehab overall and potential maybe returning to the NFL and where he's at, contractually wise by the time Kevin Colbert hits the combine.
Yeah, I don't know obviously all the inner workings of the CBA, but the longer you're in the league, like once you hit a certain amount of years in the league, you get eligible for that lifetime pension. I think that's how it's kind of based off of. So this is all for the medical benefits, so he can be at the facility, obviously, and I think to help with his long-term NFL pension. So if they want to have the contract hold and do the same thing, then I think it's certainly going to be feasible and practical.
And yes, if he does have to go on reserve PUP, and yes, if he goes on as a split salary, that split salary counts against the salary cap.
But he will not count against the roster should he get put on reserve PUP, correct?
Right. He once you go from that, you come off of the 90-man roster.
Gotcha. All right. So we'll let you know if anything happens, whenever anything happens, a little bit later in the offseason. To turn our attention to what happened yesterday for Pittsburgh, another player's been signed to a reserve future deal. This thing's probably a little familiar if you pay close attention to the Steelers issue. Running back Darren Hall signing a reserve future contract with the Steelers. He's a local guy out of Pitt. And was on the Steelers practice squad briefly throughout 2019. Another big back, just the way the Steelers like him. He'll be carried through the offseason.
Yeah, probably not a surprise, being as how he spent two short stints. Really seeing in the interview or two that I saw, or I think that he did on one of those times. Look, he gets it, I think. But once again, you're talking about. Look, you got to have a 90-man roster, right? And as I wrote up yesterday in kind of the Steelers offseason to-do list, over the course of the next couple of weeks, we're going to see, they had already signed all 11 guys who ended the regular season on their practice squad to the reserve future contracts. They now have added Hall. We're probably going to see the trickling through of probably 7 or 8 more. I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 more reserve future contract players here in the next few weeks. And a few of them might come out of the workout players they just had, right?
Yeah, in addition to signing Hall, they had a slew of tryouts yesterday. And usually we don't hear about Steelers tryouts too often, but we may hear some names getting signed from that group. I'll read the list here from Howard Balzer, the wide receiver Sean Bain, Anthony Johnson, Poppy White, quarterback Tanner Lee, running back Tevin McCaster, punter Tyler Newsome, and Ryan Santoso, and long snapper Kyle Vasey. So I don't know if any of those names sticks out to you. I know Anthony Johnson, for me, was a pretty highly touted UDFA out of Buffalo who's got good size and speed. That's probably the biggest name. We'll see if any of those guys get signed.
Didn't we have a breakdown on him on the site?
I'm sure we did. I'd have to look, but I imagine someone did.
I thought that name sounds familiar. I'm trying to let me look here real quick and see. I thought maybe Daniel did something on him.
That sounds about right. Or maybe Josh, one of the two. I mean, this guy
okay, here it is, right here. Daniel did do it. How about that for old man?
There you go. This guy had actual, draftable talent, and he just fell out because receiver classes are so deep. But I wouldn't mind picking him up if I'm Pittsburgh.
Daniel has limited on the bad limited route tree. Does not have standout athletic traits. Struggles to create separation. Lacks speed. Does not have long speed to separate vertical. Limited ceiling. 2018, 57 receptions for 1,011 yards, 11 touchdowns, a nice 17.7 yards per reception for Buffalo. Career had 133 receptions, almost 2,400 receiving yards, and 25 touchdowns. He was invited to the 2019 Senior Bowl. So I'm still trying to look at some of these comments and all. But for anybody who wants a quick synopsis on him, Daniel Valente wrote him up February 26th. Just search Anthony Johnson in the search function on SteelersDepot.com.
And Tanner Lee, the quarterback, I watched him at the Senior Bowl. Big, strong arm, prototypical looking quarterback, but really struggled with ball security. Tevin McCaster is a local product, and Santoso is a kicker-punter hybrid, so he might be a good offseason addition.
All right, I think they had another long snapper that they're looking at, which probably isn't uncommon. I mean, look, you're gonna need some guys for the rookie minicamp and to fill out the 90-man rosters. So I won't be surprised if maybe even starting today we get a few more future contract guys to write about here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're a long snapper. They might, but I imagine for these workouts where we're bringing in punters, you probably need to bring in a long snapper just to snap for the workout. But yeah, we'll let you know if any of those guys get signed.
Yep. Let's see. Anything else we have transaction-wise? I think that was about it on as far as that goes.
Yeah, I think that's everything. So, Dave, I don't know which direction you want to go from here. I think probably the best way to look at this is with Vance McDonald, because you had an interesting article that kind of really paints his offseason. It's just kind of murky, up in the air. Do you want to describe kind of what you wrote in the post for Steelers Depot yesterday and why you think McDonald's future is just very uncertain right now?
Yeah, look, I mean, when we build a short list, which we did right out of the chute, right, there's about 4 guys that you can look at under contract for 2020 that you could possibly see not surviving to the new year because of salary cap needs and all. That list: Mark Barron, Anthony Chickalo, and Ramon Foster are 3 of the main guys that are prime for what we like to call contract terminations, if you will, when it comes to that. Now, the other guy that you'll see, that was not only on my list, but you'll see probably floating around on every list now that people are writing about it a little bit more, is Vance McDonald. And you and I have talked about Vance McDonald earlier, before the season ended, even talking about possible future during the offseason here. His contract's a little bit different because obviously it was inherited from the 49ers when they traded for him. He has what's called an option year in his contract, actually this year, and I think next year, 2021 as well too. And that option needs to be exercised by the end of whatever new year NFL year you're in, and just prior to the start of the new league year. So by come the start of the new league year, which I believe now is on March 18th this year, the Steelers have got to decide whether or not they want to pick up Vance McDonald's option for 2020. Now, it sounds, boy, that sounds fancy, picking up an option. Surely there's some guaranteed money involved with that. Well, the deeper you look into this, it does not appear that picking up that option includes any guaranteed money there. And you figure, well, why even have kind of an option in there if it really there's nothing to tag onto it? Well, I think it ties mainly into kind of free agency, if you will, and why the 49ers probably did the contract this way. If you decline the option, then the player automatically becomes an unrestricted free agent. So thus, if the player automatically becomes an unrestricted free agent, he's available for free agency. And if he goes somewhere else via free agency, then of course it would count in the compensatory draft pick formula as far as that goes. So now the question becomes, what do you save by not picking up his option? What are the pros and the cons of not picking up his did I call it a fifth-year option? Just an option, his option year in 2020. What are the pros and cons related to that? Well, first of all, you stand to free up $5.6725 million in salary cap space prior to roster displacement by not picking it up. How bad do you need that? We'll get our answer. How bad do the Steelers need that, 5.6725 in salary cap space? That's a starter. And if you do need it that bad, is it worth, because look, the only tight ends you have under contract right now for 2020, and this list will grow probably in the next week or two with a reserve future or two player. But it's McDonald, Zach Gentry, Kevin Rader, and Christian Scotland Williamson, because Nick Vannett is scheduled to become an unrestricted free agent because he's not currently under contract. Now, we'll see what happens with Nick Vannett. Obviously, I think both of us agree, and probably most listening, that the Steelers are probably going to address the tight end position at some point during the draft, and probably sooner rather than later, correct?
Yeah, I think definitely within their first three selections.
Okay, so here's the gist of what my long post on Vance McDonald is. I don't think it's cut and dry. I know people are ready to just throw the baby out with the bathwater here, and I get it. Okay, the guy's had some problems staying healthy. Really had a down season. Of course, quarterback played a lot into it. Really, both him and Nick Vannett, their blocking, we've talked about several times as well too. Just really not up to par overall. But we also have a history of Kevin Colbert here, right? 2 decades of knowing how he kind of likes to go into drafts and not, even though the need button usually gets pushed and he'll claim that it's intersected with need versus best player available on the board, yada yada, the same old thing that we get every year. But I mean, a lot of times, face it, when you turn back around and look at it, it usually those top few picks are associated with need. All right, but we've also seen him, especially how they treat free agency in the past. Though what we perceive generally as holes are usually patched a little bit through a low-level free agent signing, if you will, and then that opens up a little bit more options when it goes into when they get into draft. Because yes, even though we think that they're going to draft a tight end, probably in that second, third, or fourth round selection, there's no idea who you might end up getting. And make no mistake about it, they're not just going to draft a player just to draft a player. They're going to have 2 or 3 probably that they have their eye on, that they quote unquote like and all, but there's still no guarantees associated with it. So, what is the likelihood of Kevin Colbert needing? And make no mistake, all this kind of circles back to the whole Bud Dupree thing, being able to afford the possible tag on him. Plus, not only that, you got we talked about some restricted free agents that are going to need to be tendered here in the coming weeks and months, and all this piece of the puzzle as Colbert and Art Rooney II has to come perfectly together this offseason, because this team is going to be up against the cap all offseason. However, whenever you look at this whole piece of the puzzle that's called the salary cap here, there's kind of measuring points along the way, okay? And as we've seen in the past, the Steelers can run right up against the cap up until obviously final cutdown day, and at the end when they cross the finish line is when they're going to want to be the $6 or $7 million underneath the salary cap, because that's usually what they like to go into the season with kind of emergency space. If you will. So this is, I think, all the things that I just mentioned there, the overall makeup of the draft chart, of the depth chart, the fact that you don't have a first-round pick. I did a mock draft this morning, Alex.
Did you?
Yeah, I released Steelers Dave Bryan Steelers Depot mock draft 0.5. And I have Minka Fitzpatrick going to the Steelers in the first round.
I like it. That's bold.
I had not a lot of pushback with that either, which is unusual for my mocks. But anyway, obviously no first round draft pick, and we don't expect them to have a first round draft pick either. Come time the draft rolls around here. I think when you look at the makeup of the depth chart right now, even if you sign Nick Vannett, okay, and I just wonder if they're going to deem that $5.6725 million as much of a need to not pick up the option on Vance McDonald. Now, to talk about the cons, if you went ahead and picked that up, and let's say you cut him, at a later date, that's the good thing, is there's no guaranteed money on it. So just because you maybe not part ways with him now, you could potentially part ways with him later and still recognize the same cap savings prior to the start of the regular season there. So there's that plus. But the only real drawback, other than not getting the immediate cap relief when it comes to not picking up his option, would be that, if you waited, you would lose out on a potential compensatory draft pick value by not letting him go the route of free agency.
Here's where I come in on Vance. There's two big questions, and I don't know if I can answer either of them. I don't know if either of us can answer that. Well, you probably can answer the first one better than I can. Can you keep Vance McDonald? Can you pick up that option and still retain Bud Dupree under the franchise tag while still doing all the other necessary tenders and moves and cap space stuff you have to do? Is that possible? That's the first question.
Look,
I'm sure it's possible, but where does that put you? Because I know in the scenario about tagging Dupree, you had Vance cut. You didn't pick up the option. Can you pick up that option? And
there's the various there are various ways to massage this thing, and they are going to run right up against the cap, right? Now let's assume that it's a slam dunk that Chickalo, Barron, and Foster out the door.
Yep.
All right, that's roughly around $14 million in cap savings. Okay. Another thing we're going to get into here is the limitations of the 30% rule when it comes to not only new contracts but restructures this offseason. There's not a lot for them to save with the long list of players that you would think that they could restructure. Really, the top one on the list would be Ben Roethlisberger, and normally you'd be able to get what I write, $9 million the way his contract's set up now with a restructure in a normal year. This year it's going to be, man, I'm already losing my voice already. But this year it's going to be you would have been able to normally save about $10 million with a restructure with him, but this year that number is going, because of the 30% rule, is going to be more, around $3 million in savings. And then he's the highest one that you're going to gain. There's only two or three of them. I think Tuitt, I don't know what I write, $1.3 million you save by doing a full restructure on him, and then it clicks down quickly from there. Long story short, can they do enough with the restricted tenders and cutting Chickalo, Barron, and Foster, and still and tag Dupree and still come in under the gun? It's going to be close,
right?
I think they can
Mm-hmm.
I think they can do it, especially maybe if you restructure Rothman. Because look, I mean, if he passes his if things look good on that February checkup with him, and you assume that you're going to get those final 2 years out of him, you might as well go ahead and kick that can kick that can to 2021 for whatever you can with him. Now, as far as any other guys like Tuitt get restructured or anybody else, you milk the cow as much as you want to milk it, until the milk runs dry. But I think it can work. Obviously, look, there's other options with these restructures that are non-conventional, with adding, false years and all like that onto some things as well too. But it's just unorthodox ways that the Steelers just generally don't participate in. Okay, and that's why I don't want to go out in that realm. And could there be another surprise cutting in there?
Right. That's what I was thinking. I wonder who a surprise cut, if you had to come up with a name of a guy we haven't talked about yet on that list that could be cut. I don't know of a name, but I wonder if I thought long and hard about it, if I could come up with somebody else.
Yeah, it'd be Vince Williams, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that might be as good a place to start as any.
But boy, you put yourself.
You cut both guys.
You cut Barron and Williams, and boy, you're really behind the 8 ball then, right?
Yeah, I think that might just do more harm than good. I'm with you. I imagine there's some way to be able to do it. I mean, you'll be right against the cap, I'm sure, if you keep Vance, pick up the option, and tag Dupree. But I imagine you can massage this thing enough and be able to make it work. So
and look at Cameron Hayward too. There's probably not, because of the 30% rule. I haven't laid out a structure or anything. Maybe there's $1 million or $2 million or whatnot to be saved by getting him done before the start of the new league year. When it comes to him. But as far as anybody else, as far as a pre-new league year, extension, that would save a gobs of money. Yeah, I just don't see it, But I think if you restructure the contract of Ben and got that $3 million or whatever there, got Cameron Hayward there done, and got the $2 or $3 million there, well, there's your $5 million. Okay. And once again, and I think some people are taking that post as me saying, oh, there's no way that there's no way that they're going to let McDonald walk at come to start a new league year. No, it's just, I think because the overall makeup of the depth chart and all, and because the uncertainty that comes to, look, you can not pick up the option and try to go the free agent route, but what are you going to get that would be considered an upgrade over McDonald for less money?
There's really nothing out there, not for less money, at least.
And then thus sometimes the devil that you do know is better, right? And I suppose if you got Nick Vannett done here in a couple of weeks, to let him be. I mean, how do you feel about him being your security blanket versus Vance?
I want Vannett on the minimum and not a penny more. I mean, I'll put it that way.
Right.
So here's the other question I have, because let's assume that you can make this work financially under the cap. And I had this question yesterday and I answered it because I thought about it a little bit. My question would be, and again, I can't answer this because I'm not in the organization, why did Vance struggle and not look like himself in 2019? Was it because he was playing through a nagging injury we just don't know about? That's possible. Or is it just a product of his body breaking down over years of playing the NFL, all the injuries he's endured, and it's just where he just doesn't have it, his tank's just on empty? If it's the former and he was just playing through a nagging injury and you say, okay, he gets healthy from that and he's going to go back to old Vance when he's healthy, then you're much more open to keeping him. If it's the latter and his body's just breaking down and he's just running on fumes at this point, then you're probably going to need to move on, because you say that's not going to improve, that's not going to get better as he gets another year older after another season in football. So that's, I think, the question the Steelers have to ask themselves. If it's the former and it's just a nagging injury he played through, you keep him. If it's the latter and his body's just simply breaking down, then you're probably not going to pick up that option.
Right. Look, I mean, well, here's the thing, though, too. You're still addressing the position, right? In the draft, if you can, and the earlier the better. Now, if you just think he's just, boy, this guy's done, there's no way this guy will even hit 40 receptions, even if he's the man with Ben Roethlisberger next year. His blocking is just, injury or wear and tear, whatever, just the drop off is there. Look, he's never been regarded as nobody's going to call him a George Kittle at any point during his career, right? When it comes to blocking, but I keep going back to his first season in Pittsburgh, man. He did some good things, in the run blocking category there. But he's also a guy too, and I think you hit on this. He's not a guy that you're going to play, that you don't want to see play 75% of the snaps or more. I mean, in fact, you probably want to limit him to around 60 to 65 if possible, and slowly phase in a new guy as the season rolls on.
Yeah, I mean, I say even if you keep Vance, even if you say that, and there's a loud train going by, I apologize. People seem to like the train. People said yesterday they love the train sound.
You got to watch. You've never watched Blues Brothers there, but there's there's an iconic scene where Jake or Elwood, I think, takes Jake up to his apartment, and it's right there in New York. He says there's the constant trains going by, and he says, how often does a train come by? He says, so often you don't even notice.
I noticed. And
it's an iconic. You gotta watch that movie, Alex. I mean, it's such an iconic movie. I mean, even as a kid, I think when that thing came out, I'd every time that thing would come on TV, I'd have to watch it. But some great music in there. As well, so man, try to fit that into your off season. I mean, tape the damn Bachelor or whatever, Bachelorette or whatever, and put that thing on.
I just worry about the one headphone user whose just ears have exploded by the train noise behind. But getting back to Vance, even if you deem him, even in the best case scenario where he comes back and he's Vance of old, Vance of 2018, he is a 500 snap a season type of tight end. If you put any more on his plate, that starts to wear him down. His best seasons, like 2018, a couple years ago in San Francisco, have come playing between 450 and 500 snaps. And I think this stat will shock people that haven't heard it. Vance, despite playing one fewer game last year than 2018, played about 200 more snaps than he did the year before. And that was just because of the nature of the position. They didn't have tight ends. They had to have him be an all situations kind of guy. They couldn't have the rotation they did the year before with him and Jesse James. So his ideal scenario is 500 snaps about 50% of the time, which just means on its own that you have to have another tight end brought into the mix that can basically be splitting starter reps with Vance. So even if you bring Vance back and he's healthy and he plays well, you have to have another piece in addition to him to basically split snaps 50-50.
Right. Look, the jury's still out on Zach Gentry, but being
he's not going to be your 50% snap guy in 2020.
Right. And I mean, Vanette, I understand why they did it, because once again, you're going to have a lot of tackle eligibles, even more than what you ever. I'm done seeing the tackle eligibles. I don't know about you.
There
is value in certain game situations, short yardage, possibly goal line. But I mean,
against 4-3 defenses, I prefer to have my tackle than a tight end trying to block a 4-3 end.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd like to see them fewer and far between than what we've seen them.
Yeah, that's probably fair, and I think they used it so much because the tight end depth was so terrible this year, and because they couldn't block.
I mean, look, this guy is going to earn a little over $5 million. Once again, show me another tight end on the market. I think someone's saying, well, just trade for OJ Howard with Tampa. Well, I mean, it sounds all fine and good on paper, but we can't sit here and push the button, you know, and neither can the Steelers. What are you willing to give up for a guy? Like what round was he? First or second?
I think he was a first round pick, but he did not have a good year in Tampa last year.
Right. And yeah, you could. Yeah. Look, if you can get that guy in there for to be the fallback to, regardless, you're still going to address his position in the draft, regardless of whatever you go. I don't care if you trade for O.J. Howard or whatever you do. It's hard to imagine this team not addressing this position in the draft, and like we said, in second, third, or fourth round. Hopefully earlier than fourth, from what I'm seeing in my quick cursory view of, what's the word? Is it cursory?
Yeah, your initial view, is that what you're talking about?
Right.
Yep.
Is that the word? I'm trying to expand my vocabulary here in 2020. But anyway, long story short, Alex, I don't think it's cut and dry. I don't think we can stand here right now and say they're absolutely not picking up this 2020 option on Vance McDonald.
I think trying to figure out McDonald's future is the most difficult question I have heading into the offseason, where I really don't know what's going to happen with him for the reasons I mentioned, because how do you make it work financially and salary cap wise, and why did he play so poorly last year? And yes, quarterback play was an issue, but I think everybody can agree he just looked like a shell of himself compared to 2018.
And, obviously production down, and quarterback's going to play, and just overall offense as a whole was down. Can he be the fallback, though? In other words, boy, he sure would make a great number 2, wouldn't he?
He's a 500 snap a season guy in a best case scenario, which you can call him number 1, number 2, but either way, you need somebody to be another 500 snap season type of tight end, and that's what they had in Jesse. That's what they lost. They couldn't replace that. And you can't ask Vance to be anything more than 500 snaps a season. You got to have him on a pitch count, because you got to keep his body in relatively good condition for a stretch run.
Let me run this past you as well too. Let's say he makes it past he gets his option exercised by the start of the new league year. Once again, at any point you could cut bait, okay, between now and the start of the regular season, or think about this. I mean. And this is extreme, but you get in there in the draft. Let's say you got Vinette back in the fold, or the plan is, to get a Vinette or a Vinette-like player, which probably isn't hard to do, right? On the cheap. Hey, you get the guy you like there early in the draft. You can turn right around and trade Vance McDonald for a 5th or 6th round pick, maybe.
Or just cut him. That's my thought. I thought you would go the John Bostic route and just release him.
Right. I mean, you obviously try to shop him.
I really don't know what the value would be at that point.
So what would you do right now, assuming that you can massage it enough to afford him and Bud Dupree through the start of the new league year? And once again, I think people need that'll listen to this, when it comes to this cap and the Steelers offseason, you really got to break this elephant up into small bites, into measuring points, because they don't have to be, $13 million under the cap. Obviously you got to be able to afford the Dupree tag as soon as you make it, but you don't have to be astronomically on top of that under the cap. You can run right up against the cap along this whole race up until you get to the end of it.
Right, but that would also give you nothing in free agency, which I know they're not going to be big players in the begin with, but that would even give you less for him.
Right, absolutely. I mean, look, regardless of the route that they take with McDonald, I don't think you're going to have a lot of playing room in free agency here.
Yeah, no, you're right, but you would have even less. I mean, obviously. What I would do, again, not being on the inside, knowing why he struggled last year is very tough to try to give an answer. But I would, assuming there's a way to still tag Dupree, I would pick up the option on Vance. I will maybe sign Vinette for the minimum, again, not a penny more, and then draft a tight end and going with that group and Gentry in the training camp.
Right. I think I would do that as well. But, I mean, there's a lot of ifs in there, as far as I think they can make McDonald possibly work along with Dupree, as long as those other 3 are cut, along the way. I mean, look, it's going to be tough. I think you have to do a restructure on Ben. Maybe you do a restructure on one of these other guys, that's not providing, in other words, get as much as you can because you can get it. Just because you can't get a lot doesn't mean you can't still go after it via these restructures. But even so, this is normally not a team that does like 6 restructures, during the offseason. However, these restructures, the amounts tagged on to several of these players are just so minuscule, that not going to make a big difference as far as kicking, as far as the size of the can that you're kicking down the road there. But just knowing Kevin Colbert in general and basing it only on that and that alone, man, I think I'll be surprised. And not that Ben Roethlisberger has to sign off on it, but how'd you like to go and tell him? Well, yeah, we're going to go into the draft a little bit blind at tight end here, Ben. We're taking Vance McDonald away from you. Not once again. Not that matters in the grand scheme of things, but maybe it does.
Yeah, and hey, listen, rookie tight ends, it's one of the toughest positions to transition to from the college game. Very rarely does a rookie tight end come in and produce a real immediate significant impact. So you can't count on that guy to be your 1,000 snap, a season type of guy out of the gate.
Heck, maybe they're higher on Scotty than we think they are, But it's hard to kind of imagine that,
Yeah, I mean, you can like him, but you can't really count on him in any sort of significant way. You just can't do that as we see here today. I think that's a good time to segue, though, because you're talking about restructures and the difficulty of them and why it's even more difficult this year coming at the end of a CBA. Can you explain why it's more difficult right now to try to do some of these restructures and how that relates to the 30% rule you've talked about for a couple of podcasts?
Yeah, and I wrote about this last week as well, too, and we meant to cover it on the last podcast, but I got long-winded, as usual there. Section 7, the 30% rule. No NFL player contract extending into a season beyond the final league year may provide for an annual increase in salary, excluding any amount attributable to a signing bonus as defined in Section 7. Boy, you get into this thing, into this section.
My eyes are glazing over.
That's why you gotta keep a copy on the throne, if you will, man, or on the iPad. That's unsanitary, by the way. But as defined, anyway, above more than 30% of the salary provided for in the final league year per year, either in the season after the final league year or in subsequent season covered by a player. You realize why sometimes I have to reread this stuff over and over and over again when it comes to this. In short, anything other than signing bonus is considered an earning for a player in a year. So like a base salary, a roster bonus, not likely to be earned instead of anything other than signing bonus proration can be counted towards as a player's earnings in a year. And then the subsequent year going into uncapped years can only be a 30% jump each time. So if a player earns $1 million in 2020, what's a 30% increase of that to the next year?
1.3 million.
All right, so that's what you're up against as far as jump. Now, I talked about other unorthodox things. Here's what some teams I think were trying to do to circumvent it was do some late season restructures this past season and previous seasons to kind of free up a little bit more. In other words, so that they could end the year with more salary cap space to carry over to the next year. They're always going to find a way to cheat the system, because you're not trying to cheat it, you're not trying, right? But there's other unorthodox things about taking an option bonus maybe and spreading that out and adding on some false years. It's just when it comes to the Steelers, they just don't normally participate in kind of those unorthodox things, right? So it's hard to predict them doing as such this year. Not saying that they won't, but it's kind of hard to predict something that A, a method that's not used a lot, and B, something the Steelers just don't normally or don't do when it comes to that. So this 30% rule is going to make it super, super tough in getting some of these guys restructured and getting a lot of savings. And once again, the highest one on the list would be Ben Roethlisberger, the way his contract's set up right now, doing a maximum restructure with him and adhering to adhering to the 30% rule would produce a 3.192 million, a little over 3.192 million in salary cap savings in 2020 by restructuring him. Even if you were to do everybody that you deemed fathomable to get it done, to restructure and adhere, you're talking about guys like Stephon Tuitt, David DeCastro, Steven Nelson, Marquise Pouncey, Joe Hayden, and Vince Williams. If you were with those, 6 guys, if you were to restructure those guys the way normally do it and adhere to the 30% rule, you produce a total cap relief of like $5.5 million for all 6.
Less than $1 million per player, really.
Right, and some of those guys like Pouncey, I think Hayden and Vince Williams, you're only getting less than $1 million in cap savings by restructuring there. Okay, so let's add that 5.5 onto the bin 3.2. I mean, there's almost $9 million there if you want it. Okay. So, it goes back to what I say all the time, man, there's several ways to massage this cap. So, I mean, I just got you, there's another way to get $9 million if they want it,
And I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but you said the reason why it's a bigger issue this year than past years is because the CBA is expiring, and how exactly?
Well, yeah, you're another year closer to it, so you've got to be able to adhere to that immediate jump from 2020 to an uncapped year in 2021, and adhere to the 30% rule. See, the main thing was you had to whatever the salary in 2020 is when it starts, So, obviously, you were able to recognize more in restructures, like, say, last year or whatnot, because you had that first year that you were working with, that the jump from 2019 to 2020, wasn't governed by really technically, it was the years past that need to be governed by the 30% rule.
So it's just because it's harder to project the future, you have to be more conservative with your restructures? Is that? No,
the whole 30% rule is just so teams don't throw out cash out there into uncapped years, not knowing the uncertainty of the CBA. Okay. They don't want uncertain. They don't want teams gaming the system and freeing up a lot of salary cap space just for the sheer fact of we don't have to worry about it in a possible uncapped year.
Okay, gotcha.
That's kind of why the 30% rule, they just don't want unnecessary dumping of cap space into potentially uncapped years.
Right, and isn't that also to help avoid crazy backloaded contracts too, where it's like super low in the first year and the salary jumps up like crazy in the back?
Well, you're still going to have, look, anytime you do contracts with players, you're still going to have cash flows that you adhere to. People take this backloaded and all like that. I think they try to make it as a talking point a little bit way too much, in my opinion, because a long-term deal with a player is still going to adhere to some sort of cash flow.
Yeah, and they're always backloaded. I mean, I get that. Okay.
Yeah, the only difference is guaranteed money. How much of percentage of guaranteed money right out of the chute? How much of that do you want to pawn off in signing bonus? I guess is what you're getting at there. More than anything, putting out into uncapped years that way. But look, I mean, it's an obstacle, but it's all 32 teams have to deal with the obstacle. So
the Steelers are just really tight cap wise,
right? And we'll see. Look, I mean, I obviously don't know what way. I would think that it's up for discussion to definitely, if Ben passes a muster test in start of February there, I think it's definitely fine and an okay and an option to go ahead and get that nearly $3.2 million that you can save via restructure with him. Now, whether or not they do Tuitt, DeCastro, man, how many times have they already done Tuitt's contract already? A couple,
Yeah, but I guess because the restructure amounts are so low, you might as well do a couple more players than usual, because it's not like you're restructuring. You're not kicking a giant can down the road for any of those guys.
Right. And if you need the money now, you need the money now, kind of thing there. So it'll be interesting to see once we by the start of the new league year, because you would think if they're going to do a lot of these guys in restructures, a lot of them would be done because maybe they want to retain a McDonald and handle all the restricted tenders and handle a tag on Dupree, right?
Right. So you're saying these restructures, should they happen, could happen fairly soon, right?
Yeah, I would think so, Alex. Yeah. I would think so.
Okay, gotcha. So there you go on that. We'll see what happens.
You see why it's so hard to even towards in October. I wrote up that piece on the look ahead to the Steelers 2020 salary cap situation. Boy, the thing moves so quick, And look, I mean, the start of 2019 season, we're talking about, whoa, okay, the possible James Conner and Juju Smith extensions, and weren't even talking about T.J. Watt possibly being in a discussion, and Lord knows we weren't talking about a Bud Dupree franchise tag going into the 2019 season, right? And here we are. Right. So it's so hard not being in their room, in Omar Khan's office, as a fly on a wall, as to being an outsider and not knowing what way they're going to go with this. I mean, you got to learn as much as you can to how the system works, and really just try to speculate based off that and how the team has worked in the past. And because of all that, circling us finally back to Vance McDonald, that's why I think it's not as cut and dry as most people think.
Yeah, I don't think it's cut and dry. I think, like I said, it's, for me, the hardest decision to try to come up with, and the most uncertain spot on the roster of what is Vance McDonald's future. So I'll sit back.
I wonder how many people clicked off the podcast now because you hear me rambling about numbers and in old man voice.
I don't know. We got a couple still listening, so at least. But I'll sit back and I'll see what the team does. I'll certainly lean on you to explain whatever financial cap moves that they make, and it'll be very interesting though, because the Steelers, I'm sure they can make it work, but they gotta push all the right buttons this offseason to make this thing work financially. And
look, we're almost just exactly 2 months away from starting a new league year, so we're going to start getting some of these answers real quick. Restricted tenders. I have a full and to kind of promote a post I did late Wednesday or late Tuesday. There I have a quick little synopsis of the Steelers' to-do list for the 2020 offseason up until the start of the new league year. So if you want a good idea of what the progression is for the Steelers and their to-do, and what I view as an overall synopsis of a to-do list for them, go ahead and check that out, and that'll kind of give you some time frame markers in there. But look, we're going to learn a lot by the start, like we do every year, by the start of the new league year in March there when it comes to that. And by then we'll know whether or not Dupree has a tag. Look, you mentioned this quite a while ago. Well, can they extend Bud Dupree before having to place the tag on him? Yeah, that's obviously a viable option, but how realistic is it? I mean, that would be best case scenario, right? Go, 3 weeks from now they announce, we got Bud Dupree signed to an extension. Okay, which would obviously mean that he's not carrying a 16 whatever million cap charge into the 2020 new league year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it will get done, but everybody knows that Dupree is going to be tagged in a worst case scenario. Everyone knows where his floor is at. It's going to be above that tag number when we're talking average yearly value for a long-term deal. So what's the hang up in terms of a starting point for negotiations? If you negotiate it seriously and actually act in good faith, which I imagine the Steelers will, then I think you can get a long-term deal done, knowing what you know and knowing that you can tag him if you can't get that deal hammered out. So I still think it's possible. How likely is it? I don't know, but I think that's obviously the ideal situation. They don't want Dupree to play on the tag. They want a long-term deal, and certainly that would help for them from a long-term outlook at the position and from a cap standpoint in 2020.
And look, the whole T.J. Watt thing's a whole nother half-hour show.
Yeah.
What do you do there?
No, you're waiting until the summer on that if you do it at all, because right now you got to take care of Bud.
Right, and where else was I going? Look, I mean, at this point now, it's hard to imagine them not at least tagging Bud Dupree. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, as soon as Tomlin said that he's a priority for us, I told you right there that worst case scenario they're going to tag him. Bud Dupree will be a Steeler in 2020. It's just a question of will he be on a tag or will he be on a long-term deal.
Real quick, Tuzar Skipper, of course, at the end of last week, he was set to be an exclusive rights free agent. The reports came out that he and who was it, Marcus Allen, another guy that was scheduled to be an exclusive rights free agent, had already re-signed. Allen, I think, is a 1-year deal. Tuzar is a 2-year deal. Okay, and minimum salaries in both years: $585,000 in 2020 and $675,000 in 2021. Like I said, both salaries are minimum. The question then becomes, well, if he was an exclusive rights free agent, normally those guys get 1-year deals. Why is it different with Tuzar and him not getting a signing bonus this year? Or with that 2-year deal? Well, the fact that it's really kind of semantics, and it kind of really ties back into the weird roundabout that he took to get back to the Steelers roster, right? Normally he wouldn't be a 1-year player as an exclusive rights free agent, right? Right. But because the way the roundabout that he took to get back to the Steelers and signed off the Giants practice squad and all, made his contract expiring after the 2019 season, even though he didn't dress. He's one of those rare 1-year exclusive rights free agents. So what would happen if you just signed him to a 1-year exclusive rights free agent contract this year?
RFA next year.
No, he would be a exclusive rights free agent again next year.
Oh, okay.
So he was staring being an exclusive rights free agent back to back in 2020 and 2021 regardless.
Okay. But this has no signing bonus, right?
No signing bonus.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of semantics, really. But he was going to be an exclusive rights free agent after, assuming he lasted all season. He's going to be an exclusive rights free agent after the 2020 season, anyway. So you just got him on what he was going to earn anyway. Now we just sit and watch and see if he makes the roster and makes it all season.
So don't pay too much attention to the fact it's a 2-year deal, right?
No, but a lot of it. I didn't think that post would attract nearly 80 comments.
It's Tuzar Skipper. You put like Daniel Jones. Put them in a headline. People are gonna talk.
Look, I mean, is there a player that got looking back at what he did this past preseason, all the consternation that it caused by him going away and now back. Is there a player that you're going to be more looking forward to? A young player, next preseason?
It'll be right up there, and certainly there should be an opportunity because you think about working under the assumption that Chickalo is gone, which I think is like 99% that he's going to be cut. You have Watt Dupree, and then behind that, there's not a whole lot. Adaney was pretty quiet this year. Obviously, he'll be in the mix, but yeah, you'll have a couple of Toledo kids fighting for a backup role.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, as we sit here right now, decent chance both of them make it.
Absolutely. All right, Dave, let's flip. We did our running back kind of review and recap and eye to the draft on Monday's show. Let's do quarterbacks today. And again, I think we're in a similar boat where I think a large part of the fan base, or at least some part of the fan base, is saying draft a quarterback high, or at least draft a quarterback at all. And I think we're kind of in the opposite direction on that. I think you just kind of roll with the group that they have. And I think I said this about 2 weeks ago. I would not be shocked in the least if they go into training camp with basically the quarterbacks they have now in Ben, Mason, Duck, and Paxton Lynch.
Boy, if we got talked about all that salary cap stuff, I think I'm gonna need a shower. Whew, I gotta fan myself off here a little bit.
I'm gonna have to listen to this episode like 3 times to understand.
I got to talk salary cap, and I watched some Alan Faneca tape this morning.
Oh my goodness, you're having a good morning.
Hot flashes, right? Look, I know people hate to hear it, but and especially since Tua, Lord knows I don't want to have to spell that in the last name or say that last name.
Right.
Tua. How do you pronounce it?
I don't even make me try.
Well, Tua obviously declared for the draft. Now, a lot of Steelers fans, that's all they can think about right now. Oh, if this guy falls to the second round, then yeah, absolutely got to take him, right? They've already come out and said Mason Rudolph. Obviously things can change. they all obviously have stood behind Mason Rudolph and said, look, this is going to be your number 2 guy. You have Devlin Hodges under contract for 2020 at nothing, at minimum salary. You have Paxton Lynch, same situation with him, under contract for nothing. You have J.T. Barrett, who they signed to, future reserve future contract for nothing. There's probably going to be another arm at some point here, depending on time frame for Ben Roethlisberger. At worst, there will be probably 2 visiting quarterbacks at the rookie minicamp there.
Mm-hmm.
I just, for the life of me, can't see this team drafting a quarterback this year. And if they do, I can't see it happening before the sixth round.
Right. I mean, I've always been on quarterbacks either you take one early or you don't take one at all because the hit rate basically after the 3rd round is super low, even the 3rd round itself. I mean, there's obviously Russell Wilson, Tom Brady in the 6th round, but the hit rate is still super low if you look at the whole group. And so I wouldn't take a quarterback early because you gotta address some positions of need that you can't address in free agency because you won't have the cap space. And it's about building this roster with Ben as opposed to trying to find Ben's future. Let's make this roster the best version of it possible in 2020. And then drafting a quarterback late, like what are you getting at that point? You're getting a fringe player who may or may not make the team. He'll battle Duck and Paxton for the number 3 spot. What benefit really is there unless the value is just so good you feel compelled to take that guy? So I don't see the reason to do it early because you want to build this roster with Ben, not his future. And I don't see the reason doing it late because what really are you getting out of that guy?
Come talk to me next year, maybe.
Right. Yeah, next year's possible. This year, I'm out.
I'm out too. And there you heard Tomlin talk about veteran quarterback. Look, I'm not opposed to going out there and going through the going through the dumpster and seeing if maybe I can find a guy that maybe for the next 2 years or whatnot can be your Charlie Batch, Byron Leftwich, whatever kind of thing. But make no mistake about it, they're not going to spend a lot of money on it. They can't.
Yeah, I was just going to say they can't afford it.
And don't you already kind of sort of have that maybe in a Paxton Lynch anyway? Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of playing time, but Mike Tomlin did give a little bit of praise there late in the season when it comes to Paxton Lynch. Look, you can see why some of the characteristics of why he was a high draft pick, if you will, in so many words. What Tomlin said there. Here's what I say you do this year. I mean, you go into you take all these guys. What's left over? You're at most you're taking 4 to camp, right?
Yeah, you'll have 4 in camp.
And obviously,
assuming Ben's on schedule.
Right. And even if Ben's right on schedule, he's still going to have that 3rd day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he'll still go. I assume we'll still go full day, half day, off day.
All right. So you're gonna still have Alex Kozora up there being able to look at guys like Paxton and Devlin Hodges during camp this year and all. I say you roll with that group, man, and. See, you pick the best 3 out of there, and I have a feeling I know who 2 of them are going to be.
What is I don't know if you know the answer to this, but what are the XFL contracts? Were they 1-year deals or were they multi-year contracts that those guys signed?
Lord. Yeah,
what if that league folds? You bring old Landry back, maybe. I don't know if you can get him after this season concludes. I know they're about ready to start up their year. Maybe you do that because obviously they wanted Landry after Ben went down, and maybe they try to bring him back for a minimum type deal.
Oh, can you imagine?
Fans will love it. I have air quotes around that.
Yeah.
But if you're going to bring in a vet, that might be your guy, cheap. I don't know. Again, logistically, I don't know how that could work. Contractually, they couldn't get him before, but maybe after this year.
Well, look, if he plays well, you're probably not going to be able to. Maybe get his foot back in the league.
Right. Yeah. Even if he plays well, the competition, it's not going to change his value. I don't think too much.
What if Landry's the MVP of? What if he's the Tommy Maddox of?
Yeah, there you go.
Of the XFL for 2020. Yeah, I mean that's obviously way off, but.
How long are the contracts for the XFL? I'm trying to look that up.
I don't know. It's hard enough paying attention to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, they're not getting paid anything, so, yeah,
I think the quarterbacks make something in that league, though, right?
Like $55,000, I think.
I thought they make more than that. I thought the quarterbacks are the highest paid. In that. Are you trying to Google machine that?
I'm not even going to bother with it right now. They're getting paid more than I think the other positions, but they're obviously not getting paid that much.
I thought I saw something on that. Let's see. NFL reveal average player salary. Top quarterbacks in it will make more than the current NFL minimum.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's everyone else that makes 55,000, and the quarterbacks make more.
Let's see. The Action Network, the guaranteed pay on a standard contract will be $1,040 a week, which equates to $54,000 per year for your normal player.
Okay.
It sounds like quarterbacks will make. What is it? What did I just say there?
Said above the minimum.
That guaranteed pay on a standard contract will let's see, more than a first year salary, a minimum salary, I think.
All right. Well, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there to think about old Landry Jones. But anyway, either way, I don't expect the quarterback to be drafted. I'm not in favor of that. I don't see the value it brings for your team early, late. Just does not make sense for Pittsburgh.
Says according to Yahoo Sports, top quarterbacks in the XFL will make more than the current NFL minimum.
Okay. Well, there you go. We'll see. Again, I'm not expecting it, and I would not be in favor of it. I'll be critical of this team if they draft a quarterback really at any point in the draft, because they don't have the capital. They need to focus on shoring up, nose tackle, safety, tight end, interior offensive line depth. What position do you want to sacrifice to take a quarterback who's not going to help you at all in 2020?
Why don't they just fire back up that NFL Europe again?
That was a lot of fun. I guess financially, I assume they weren't making much money.
I would think now with kind of the look, they've done pretty good overseas now with these games or whatnot. I think if they did another 6 or 18 team league over there, similar to what they tried the last time, I bet they'd have a little bit more success with it this time.
I guess, but if these other XFLs and stuff want to be feeder systems for the NFL and it doesn't cost the NFL a dime, then that's probably the best way from the league's perspective. You'll have a feeder system that they don't have to pay for.
Yeah, but it's not true minor leagues because you can't,
Yeah, it's not even. I'm not calling it minor leagues. It's just you have a place for players to play professionally, and the NFL doesn't have to pay $1 for it, which I think kind of works out well for them.
Free tape.
Yep, free tape. All right, Dave. Anything else on quarterback? Any other thoughts there before you wrap up that segment?
Yeah, I mean, look, do you even entertain it if a Tua? I mean, second rounds there. At what point do you even entertain it?
If Tua would have really dropped to number 49, then that means there's a big issue with those medicals. I mean, that's the only reason why he would drop that far in terms of talent. He's like a top 10, top 15, worst case scenario talent. So if he's dropping all the way that far, there's a big red flag medically, which would obviously be a big cause for concern. So I just don't expect Tua to get anywhere near 49, and B, if he does, then you got to wonder why he's dropping that far. And so short answer, no. I can't even really come up with a scenario where I would entertain it, unless again like a day 3 kind of guy that you just love and the value is so sky high, you just say I've got to take him because the number 3 spot's still kind of murky. I guess. I mean, I'll live with it, but I'm not in favor of it.
If you had to guess right now, and I won't hold you to this unless you're wrong. Who's going to be the number 3 quarterback for the Steelers in 2020?
That's a really good question, Dave.
I'm real easy-going. I'm real, forgiving on this. So I won't hold you to this unless you're wrong.
Unless I'm wrong, right?
I won't make mention of it if you're right. I'll forget about it.
Oh my! I feel like if I throw this question back at you, you're going to say Paxton. So I'm going to go with Duck, just because I think people will remember in the preseason and training camp why Duck got this look in the first place.
Yeah, how'd you know?
I just had a hunch.
I just got and that's all it is at this point. I just got a feeling that Paxton, if given a full training camp, might be able to get that number 3 spot, but it's just a guess.
Yeah, it's possible. And I guess you could say that number 3 spot's open, so let's bring in another quarterback, a 6th, 7th round pick to compete. But I just don't see the value necessarily. I think you go with a 4, and again, we'll see what happens.
I mean, if you got where you want to make sure you really took it easy on Ben or whatnot, then by all means sign another veteran that you can find for a minimum salary benefit deal, whatever, to come in to compete against Devlin, and Paxton.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I hear you. But even in that case where Ben's got even a lighter schedule, just give more reps to Mason and Duck and Paxton, because those guys need those reps in the worst way.
Right.
All right, Dave. Before we get to some reading emails and close out the show, let's talk about our friend over Dave, who does Goody's Original Popcorn. I know that's been super popular, so talk about him.
Boy, did you see our buddy David O got quite a haul of it there, didn't he?
He did.
And he really loves it too. Of course, talking about Goody's Original Popcorn out of right here in Las Vegas. Dave, great small business here, growing all the time. Ventured into the online world here recently and doing a little bit of advertising with us right now on the podcast, and it's worked out absolutely fantastic for him. We should start by telling people they need to go to GoodysLV.com. That's GOODYSLV.com to look at all the exciting. Look, this just isn't popcorn, man. This is damn good popcorn. I got a $25 a week popcorn habit thanks to Dave. Here are the flavors: savory cheese, extra butter, cheese, spicy buffalo, jalapeno cheddar, white cheddar, salt and vinegar, dill pickle, loaded potato, pizza, chili lime, kettle corn, churro, Fruity Loops, caramel, sour nerds, and he's also got a mix of cheese and caramel. Gluten, I don't know what all this means, Alex, but I think it means it's good for me. Gluten-free, non-GMO, 100% coconut oil, non-trans fat cheese, vegan options as well when it comes to him. You want a good look at his stuff? What is give out David O's Twitter handle? Sub
Burger. Let me get the spelling of it for you, but it's spelled like it sounds. It is Sub SUB Burger BURGHER.
Anyway, you should be following David O anyway. Does a lot of great work for the site and jack of all trades, if you will, to kind of help us out with some things there. He had, how many bags has he got up there? 7, 8?
A lot, yeah.
That he bought from Dave there, and he's absolutely enjoying it as well too. And I'm not shy about telling people that I love the spicy buffalo, I love the caramel, and I love the Fruity Loops there. I really don't venture off of that because I'm a creature of habit. And I'm habitual. I can get hooked on anything, and man, am I hooked on Goody's Original Popcorn. And look, he just got done doing one promotional giveaway. I just talked to him recently about another promotional giveaway from last week until whatever the first Wednesday is after the Super Bowl. He's going to do a repeat of the last promotional giveaway that he had, and that's one of those full-size. Let me see if I can find the picture of it here. The full-size Steelers helmet there. Let's see. I'm trying to find out. Do you remember what the maker of that was, of the helmet? I don't.
I don't know.
I think it was a Rydell. But anyway, same promotion as last time. Look, this is a heck of a expensive piece of memorabilia here that he's getting here. Now, let's see. Okay, an authentic Speed Steelers helmet. All right. And if you want to get entered into the chance to win that from Dave at Goody's Original Popcorn, go to GoodysLV.com, place an order online, and use the promo code HELMET. That's easy to remember, HELMET, and you'll automatically get entered into that thing there. And I think you can find his stuff on his Instagram page there, and he's got some nice pictures and all up there from the holidays as well too. You go to on Instagram, it's Goody's Original Popcorn. If you want to check out the photos on Instagram that he has, you should be going to the website anyway. Look, if you've already tried this popcorn, you know we're not telling you any lies. If you haven't tried this popcorn yet, go get you some. Go get you some of that spicy buffalo. I promise you. That and the caramel, you will not be disappointed. So we appreciate Dave for continuing on with the sponsor. He'll be with us through the Super Bowl here. And once again, if you place an order and use promo code HELMET, you'll automatically be entered in to win that full-size helmet, Steelers helmet.
All right, there you go. Good luck to everyone who enters. We appreciate the support. All right, Dave, let's close out the show. I think we just have a couple reader emails, so let's get to those.
Yeah, not many here. Did we miss anything here? I don't think we have we?
No, and if we did, we got a lot of time on our hands this offseason. Talk about it Friday.
All right, Jonathan Mason writes in, Alex and Dave, the ultimate reason I'm okay with drafting a running back in the second round is because when Connor isn't healthy, he's got when capitalized. The other backs that are on the team are too much of a tell when they check in the game. This team needs help on offense, and a more of an all-around running back is going to help right away more than a tight end or a center/guard. Am I on an island thinking this way? Also, the picture below is what I think of Randy, and he has that picture that's floated around of Mike Tomlin giving that glance over to Randy Fichtner there. So it doesn't sound like he's too big of a Randy Fichtner fan, if you will. Look, Alex and I recapped the running back position. There's been a lot of pushback on this. A lot of people saying, look, if somebody's there in the second round, one of the top running back, they need to get them. That's the only way I see it happening. I think, unless they get one after maybe the fifth round or whatnot. I put this on Twitter last night, Alex. Man, 2017 was James Conner. 2018 was James Conner in the third round. Jalen Samuels in the fifth round in 2018. 2019, you spent a fourth round on Benny Snell Jr. Go ahead and put Kareth White Jr. down as a seventh round draft pick for the Steelers last year. I don't care if you want to look at it that way or not. I'm going to look at it that way. Man, when does it stop? And now you're going to tell me that you're going to spend a second, a third, or a fourth on another running back there? Man, I'm going to be doing a lot of face palming. If I'm not saying it's not going to happen, okay? But man, this team has got a lot of need. You can't tell me that you can't piece together something with Connor, Snell, and Samuels and White.
Right. Yeah, I keep going back to the well time and time again. I mean, when's it going to stop? I don't know how much of a tell it's been. I'd have to look at the numbers. And then Snell, obviously, as he makes a jump in the year two, he's going to become a much more well-rounded guy. I think his pass protection was above average, especially for where a rookie was at, and improved as the year went along. So I think he can have a similar skill set where you can kind of do whatever with him. And then obviously Connor is still there. I know you can't trust the health, but he's still going to be in the mix. So again, it goes back to, even if you don't like, who they have there right now, you don't trust Connor one bit, can you just wait on a running back? Because of the nature of the position, you can kind of plug and play those guys more than any other in the NFL. So that's kind of where I come in at, where you say all these other big needs you have to address. I feel like running back is a bit more on the luxury side, not totally, but more luxury than, say, maybe tight end, interior offensive line depth, safety, nose tackle, et cetera.
Well, if you do get one in 49, you better get one that can come in right away.
Right, and if
he better be able to do it all too.
Right, and I guess if you draft one at 49, I mean, is he split with Connor out of the gate? I guess that's how it would go. I mean, what do you do with Benny Snell after that promising rookie year? It just kind of adds more chaos to the rotation.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, you talk about having, not having the guy, not having continuity. Look, if they're gonna do it. If they're going to do it, they're probably going to do it early. And if they do, they better get one that's an all-around back that don't have to come off the field. And, boy, he better already be good in blitz pickup and know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. If they start bringing a bunch of backs for this stuff, then that'll be a clue that they're looking at it. If they don't, then that'll be a clue they probably aren't.
I mean, I would have to bet against it happening. Look, I put low on there on a priority level.
I'm with you.
All right, let's move on here. Talk a little bit. Let's see, Jeff Berg. I heard Alex's reason for keeping Danny Smith, and I totally respect his analysis, but an old adage came to mind. You're only as strong as your weakest link. If your weakest link has finished last for 3 straight years, you have to question the coach's abilities. He has to be aware that they're last in the league, and if he does and is unable for 3 seasons to move up even one spot, what gives? It just has me wondering why they just can't turn their unit around.
I mean, look, that's fair. As I said before, I will not defend Danny Smith on anything kick return related. It's just been bad. It's been consistently bad, regardless of the different phases that have rotated in since 2017, and there's obviously been a ton of them. But I just know special teams is so many units. It's field goal, block and kick. It's punt return, block and kick. It's kick return. Rush and cover. I mean, there's so many different units there, and just to look at one, and granted, it's weak. No question about that, and say that's the sole reason why we're going to fire you just because of that. I think that's just a little too far for me. But I understand the frustration. I'm frustrated too because I can't. Someone was asking yesterday, can you can you explain why the kick returns are so bad? And I can't. I just can't come up with a good reason why it's as bad as it's been. I mean, they're the only team to be bottom 5 in 2 of the last 3 years, and they've been bottom 5 for all 3 of the last 3 years, and that's just unacceptable. So I understand that, but I just don't see that enough to say that that's the reason to fire him.
You think if Danny Smith survives the rest of this week, he's fine, or do you think we have to extend that to next week? I mean, look, they're gonna cut bait. If they're gonna cut bait, it's gonna be soon, right?
Well, you got the Senior Bowl coming up. They're going to take the staff down there. So, yeah, I mean, they would make changes before the Senior Bowl, which is right around the January 20th. So, within less than 2 weeks, you'll know for sure who your staff's going to be. I don't know exactly what days to cut off, but I'll just say if they're there for the Senior Bowl, obviously they're going to be on the staff for 2020.
I think this same time last year is when they parted ways with Joey Porter.
Let's see when they got Saxon and James Saxon. I don't know. I know. I'm trying to think what I want to search. January 7th was when they parted ways with James Saxon.
How you like that memory?
Pretty good. And Porter, I imagine, was around the same, I imagine. Did you watch the Jeopardy yesterday?
No. Look, I love doing it because, believe it or not, I'm smarter than I look and sound. And I get a lot of, I get a lot of stuff that you would think, man, I'm surprised you know that, Dave. But when you get into some of the things those guys know, man, forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
They really make you feel stupid.
Yeah, right. And January 4th, it looks like for Porter, and then what did I say? The 7th for Saxon. So yeah, I mean, if it doesn't happen by in a week from now, it's probably not going to happen at all.
All right. So at least maybe not by this weekend, but by next weekend for sure, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really, you'd like to have someone hired probably before then for Senior Bowl stuff and draft prep and all that. By the way, one other quick thing, Jeremy Fowler said all signs point to Randy Fichtner being retained as OC. His contract runs through 2020, so one more year on Fichtner's deal. Steelers, very rarely do they fire coaches off, and they just let contracts expire, which was the case with Porter and Saxon last year.
Yeah, they just fixed the glitch.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Did you get okay, this one from George Jerez writes in. George in VA here. One of my favorite episodes between you two was when you broke down Devin Bush and Devin White. That was a damn good episode, Alex.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
That's probably ranks up there as one of our best ever. 1 year in, who looked better? Obviously, I realize you probably haven't looked a lot at White's tape, but I have seen him have quite a few splash plays in Tampa's highlights. Also, any other guy you would like in last year's first round, no matter what pick they were taken. All right, Bush and Devin White. I think the way Bush ended gives him a little bit of an edge there.
Yeah, I didn't watch Devin White really, so I can't comment too much. I think he had an injury earlier in the year, but played well late. I think he had like a pick six or interception in one of the last games of the season. I couldn't compare him because I just didn't watch him enough. In terms of other guys in the first round, it feels like an eternity ago. I know I loved Darnell Savage Jr. Let me see what he did last year. He started 14 games, had 2 picks. Looks like he had a pretty good rookie year, so would love to see Darnell Savage Jr. in a Steelers uniform.
Yeah, I was high on him as well, too. Boy, man.
We thought he was going to be a sleeper for Pittsburgh.
I thought he was going to be the pick.
Did you have him as the pick in your final mock?
I think he was in my final.
Let me look here. I think that sounds about right. I looked back at mine actually last night, just poking around. I ended up going with Greedy Williams, and that doesn't look too good now. But I did say that I did say in the article that I thought they were going to make an aggressive move to trade up for Devin Bush, and obviously that they did. They did.
I had Darnell Savage Jr. As the Steelers' first-round pick. I had Julian Love. What happened with Julian Love?
With the Giants, right? Let me see what he did this year. Where did Julian? He got fourth round with the Giants. See, he fell a little bit. He started 5 games, had an interception, so got a little action.
I had him as a second-round pick. Miles Boykin, I had in the third.
Mm-hmm, I had him too.
Ben Banagoo. I had
a good year.
I had him in the with the second of 2 third-round picks. I really like. He's a little bit older, but I really liked his tape. Ben Burke-Kirven, I had in the 4th round. What did he do? Not much, did he?
Where did he even go? I loved his tape though. Come out of Washington, he was drafted in the 5th round by Seattle. Yeah, it looks like he played in 16 games. Not a whole lot on the stat sheet.
I guess I should have gone this far. I should rattle off the rest of what I had here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. After Ben Kerman, I had Foster Moreau in the 5th round. Boy, if you were if sign, I put this on the Twitter machine last night as well too. If they show that they're ready to already give up on Benny Snell Jr. and draft a running back early, then why the hell didn't you take Foster Moreau in where you took Benny Snell last year?
I just wonder, could they have switched those picks? Could they have drafted Moreau in Snell's spot and then gotten Snell's in Gentry's spot? I think that would have been possible.
Maybe.
Because the Steelers like big backs more than any other team in football feels like. I feel like he could have gotten Snell around later, but whatever.
All right, in the 6th round, I had Isaiah Buggs. How about that? I got one.
Nice.
And the other 6th round pick, I had Alex Barnes the running back out of Kansas State. And I had that guard center out of Arkansas, Halte Froholt.
Oh yeah, the Swedish dude, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 6th round. Where did he end up? Colt. Where was it? Where the hell did he end up at?
I would type in his name, but I don't know how to spell it.
New England.
Oh, there you go.
See, Belichick picked him. That justifies justifies it alone there. And in the 7th round, I had Matt Gay, the kicker out of Utah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he went high. He went pretty high in the draft to Tampa and had a decent rookie year.
What did yours look like?
Let me pull it up here. I had Greedy Williams in the first, like I said. I was pretty off base on that, but I did say they were going to make an aggressive move for Devin Bush. Oh, where am I at here for my final mock draft? So I had Williams at 20. And in the 2nd round, I had Chase Winovich, which I really thought they were going to do, but it didn't obviously end up happening. Miles Boykin in the 3rd round. David Long Jr., which I think he was with – where did he go? Yeah, I just saw him this weekend because he played with someone.
Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee, that was it. Yeah, in the 3rd round. I didn't love that pick.
I liked David Long. I liked a lot of his stuff on tape.
In the 4th round, I also went Foster Moreau, which I really wish could have happened. In the 5th round, I went Sheldrick Redwine, who was with Cleveland this year. I don't think played too well, but I liked him a lot coming out of the U. And then in the 6th round, I knew it was low, but I wanted to put him in there. I put Benny Snell. That was the one that I hit. So I'm pretty happy about that one. Matt Gay in the 6th round. Hugo Amadi, which I was way off base in the 6th round because he went like way higher than that. In the 7th round, Trevin Tate, which I think was kind of a bad selection. I don't think he did not get drafted. So Benny Snell was my big hit in my mock draft.
We do mock drafts to fail, don't we?
Yeah, well, I think if you just combine all of our mocks, I think we end up getting it right. It just takes the whole team coming together.
And that's what I like to look back at is look at the 3 overall mock drafts as a whole, and the players generally that we discuss in those over the long haul, usually we're right on them. Look, I mean, nobody knew for sure whether or not they're going to trade up and get Devin Bush.
Right.
And if we knew look, they had enough interest there. We just thought the kid was going to go way too high for them to go up and go get.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't put him in a mock at 20 because you knew he was not going to last that far, that long.
Right. But anyway, for people that who say we don't talk enough about our failures, there you go.
Well, mock drafts I think are inherently supposed to be failures. I think if you can hit on 1 or 2 guys, which is what we've done, I think that's pretty good for a mock draft scenario.
I don't think that's good enough with people.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Tony Swanson writes in, I listened to the show where you commented that not choosing Finney to start against the Rams was an indication of the coach's faith in him. You seem perplexed regarding the reasoning about that. I have to come to his defense in this particular situation. There's a very simple explanation for them taking other interior line options in this game, and it has nothing to do with what they think of Finney or his ability. The simple answer is Aaron Donald. He is an elite, once-in-a-generation athlete, and it just comes down to Finney's stature being a liability in this singularly isolated example. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm looking forward to hearing your opinion on that. I absolutely love the show and gain more respect for what you guys do with each episode. It never seems seem like it's only 2 hours. Keep up the good work. Tough go for you, Dave, striking out on both your Super Bowl. See, people they want to remember your failures, man. They don't want to remember the stuff that you hit on. Yeah, look, New England and the Saints are already out of it. Goes to show you that no matter how much stats and the eye test tells you, it's all gambling. Thanks for keeping us informed. Look, and it wasn't really so much about look, the low defensive adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat that the Patriots had going in did play a little bit into that, obviously. But so did the fact that they got an experienced quarterback there. And really, I think I boiled it down more than anything to Tom Brady just having the experience to get past the Titans in that one. A little bit. Look, that was a good game between the Vikings and the Saints. And the Saints blew it, man.
Yeah,
you missed a field goal in that game. But yeah, anyway, both of the teams I predicted to be in the Super Bowl are out already. But I'll try it again on Friday there. What do you think about his thoughts on Finney?
Well, I think the fact that, his size and all that all related to ability. It's not like Aaron Donald's a big guy. He's actually kind of a small guy in the sense of like height, weight stuff. And people thought he was too small coming out of Pitt. I mean, he's a rocked up dude, obviously. But, I mean, that goes back to ability, though. They didn't think that he had the size, which means inherently the strength or whatever you want to talk about or refer to and talk about a guy that doesn't have the size to match up against Donald and Brockers and that whole group. So that's part of ability, I think. So I hear what you're saying. I get it. But if, Aaron Donald's a great matchup, but if they would rather move their right tackle all of a sudden in 1 week and kick him in the left guard, put him in an uncomfortable spot and have a core for do his, make his first starter 2020 at right tackle, then that kind of really tells you they really did not want Finney out there, which I think is just, indicative of they don't see him as that every situations kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think you can frame it any other way. I don't think you can go, but. When's the next year? How many buts are you going to have on the schedule next year?
Right. What are you going to do against Geno Atkins and guys like that? I mean, you can't say, they like Finney a lot, but, if they face a really good matchup, then, okay, let's not play BJ Finney. I mean, that's not how it works.
Look, that move surprised me, okay?
It did. I was shocked by it.
As well, because I've said time and time again, Finney has had some really good games at left guard.
Mm-hmm.
All right? But I don't think you can just turn away from that and not look at it.
Right. And even putting that aside, just from a financial cap space, if you're going to cut Foster, you're going to re-sign Finney, then you're just going to put that money back in the Finney. You're not going to save any cap space. And as we've outlined today, they're really up against the cap wise. And if you're going to keep Vance pick up that option, then you almost certainly have to cut Foster, and you almost certainly have to let Finney walk.
And make no mistake about it, you go back. I did this last week. Rewatched a few snaps of that Ram. Filer didn't have a great game.
No.
Against
the
Rams,
I haven't looked at
especially in the run blocking department. It was probably not an overall surprise way to this. But I mean, I think he gave up a couple three hurries in that game as well too. And it wasn't stop the presses. I'm so glad they moved him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I don't think you can look. I don't think you can look away from that. Brandon, or not Brandon. Who did I say that was? Tony. Thanks for the email, Tony.
Thank you.
Brandon writes in, hey, David and I love the podcast. Would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. What should Ryan Shazier's role be in the Steelers organization in the future 2020 and beyond? Do you guys see him suiting up and creating a dynamic duo with Devin Bush? Man, Brandon, I wish I had the answer to that question. I just don't. And I'll tell you this. I've seen nothing to this point that lets me think that Ryan Shazier is going to play in 2020. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I don't like speculating about it because I just don't know anything about the medical. He's obviously made huge strides with his rehab. It's been remarkable, the progress he's shown and the work from doctors and physical therapists and all that stuff. I just don't know. I mean, if he wants to coach, he can coach. If he wants to scout, he can scout. If he wants to try to come back and play, then I'm all for it. I just don't know, but I agree. There's been no signs that he is planning on playing in 2020.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong, but nothing that I've seen through his social media, things throughout the season, the way he's kind of moved. There's nothing that I've seen. Now, I'm with Alex. We don't know what the doctors are saying, what they have, and obviously these kind of time points are stretched out as well too. Not saying that he won't. And look, as far as his future goes with the organization, I don't know what he's good at. I mean, obviously, he's helped Ryan or Devin Bush out quite a bit during his rookie season as well too. Does he have the X's and O's and the knowledge and the ability to break down film and teach to be a coach? Possibly. I don't know. All I can do is speculate on this kind of stuff because I don't talk to him. All I know is what's out there already, what a lot of us go off of, kind of stuff like there. Look, maybe even a guy kind of develop player personnel, kind of guy. Maybe he has an eye for scouting. I don't know. But I have a feeling that if he has anything worthy to offer the organization, they'll keep him around.
Certainly, and he's worked with the scouts and coaches and stuff like that, so he seems to have an aptitude for that and a desire for that. So that's certainly in his wheelhouse. I just know I'm never going to bet against Ryan Shazier or whatever he wants to do. I fully support, and I know his future's bright, whatever path he chooses.
All right, let's do one more here. You recently mentioned the possibility of Jesse James being cut by the Lions after just one season. I took a look at his contract, and it looks like this would actually cost the Lions about $3 million in cap space to do this. Given this, do you still think Lions will be looking to cut him? Look, I've said all along I think it's kind of a 50-50 proposition with him. So,
I think I mentioned last show that I looked it up after talking about it, and I think that Jesse will be a Lion in 2020.
Let's see here. Cut. He would cost nearly $3 million extra in cap space.
Yeah, so I don't see their incentive to. I mean, he had a really quiet year, caught 16 passes, not what they paid for, but I don't think it makes sense for them to cut him. So I expect Jesse to be a Lion for at least another year.
And because of his salary, it's going to be hard for them to deal him anyway, and they would still take that same $3 million hit. Boy, they just did they mess up though with that contract?
Yes, I think they messed up.
I think we knew that right from the get-go, didn't we? I mean,
it was just weird.
Guys...
It was weird signing Jesse to that big deal and then drafting Hawkinson 8th overall.
And people say, boy, you sure talked down a lot by Jesse, but you want him back. Well, everybody has a value, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think you could make Jesse worth it, but if he's only going to catch 16 passes a year and play like a third of the time, then that's not going to justify the contract. I love Jesse James. Just the way that they're using him in relation to the money they gave him doesn't add up.
And that's where the trade-off is. That's why you can talk about, boy, you talk down on him in one instant, he's not worth this money, but yet you'd like you wouldn't mind seeing him back in a Steelers uniform there.
Yeah.
So,
well, I wouldn't pay Jesse $6 million for the record.
No.
I'm not talking cut that number in half at least.
No, you can look. I mean, look at this. He's scheduled to earn a 3.8 million base. 2.5 of that is guaranteed. All in all, he's going to have a cap number of 5.2, and Vance's cap number isn't too far more than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if Jesse's in the market this time of year from now, I might be more interested.
Tell me some Senior Bowl stories. What have you watched already? I've already started getting. You're probably a little bit further ahead than I am. Who you looked? What's jumped out at you in a quick rundown on some guys?
Well, I think I mentioned Neville Gallimore yesterday, or on Monday's podcast, I should say, that it kind of has a Javon Hargrave feel. Gone through some tight ends, some safeties. Jared Pinkney from Vanderbilt is a good athlete, a try-hard blocker that isn't great, but has a good frame and certainly desire to block. So I'm interested.
I looked at him a little bit as well too, yeah. And I hope he's not the best the class has to offer because there's some blocking issues. He's a big guy.
Yeah, he looks smaller than 260. That's what he's listed at. At least in 2018.
But he's a big guy. Frame and all like that. Mm-hmm. And really not fluid. Not a fluid athlete, I guess you'd say. Made some nice catches, though.
Right, good adjustment, good hands. I think he's fluid. I don't think he's a supreme athlete. I think he's a good athlete.
But overall, his blocking, Yeah.
But how many tight ends can block in college? I mean, at least this dude, he did pass protection. He had his hand in the dirt. I mean, those are things a lot of tight ends just simply don't do. At least he did that stuff.
My initial thought was him, and look, I watched, I don't know, 70 plays, maybe. I couldn't view him as a second round guy.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm at. I got to watch the rest of the class. I think Tom has an article today on one of the tight ends at the Senior Bowl, the Purdue kid, I believe.
I watched him as well too. That Bryson Hopkins kid.
Yeah,
he's like an oversized wide receiver.
Right. He didn't. I imagine he didn't do any sort of blocking. Right.
Did very little, very little. Impressive. I mean, he can get down the field. I did look at him. Who is the other kid that I looked at? A little bit of the LSU kid, I think.
Sullivan, right?
Yeah,
Stephen
Sullivan there.
Only caught 12 passes this year. I thought with Joe Burrow he would catch a lot more. But, yeah, I got to work through it. I looked at some safeties briefly. Brandon Jones from Texas is interesting. Got a report on him in the next couple of days. I think a good blend of size, speed, hit power, versatile guy. Not an all-star, probably relatively low ceiling, but someone I might consider in the mid-rounds.
Who else did I look at here? Offensive line. John Simpson's an interesting, the guard at Clemson.
Okay. Tell me about him.
Keeps his feet moving well from what I've seen on him. Good. I haven't seen. I want to look and see how much power. They don't run a lot of power over there though, do they? Clemson. They have the guard. I don't think they have the guards on the move. But overall, he passes the initial sniff test on him. Ben Bredesen seems more like a mid to late round guy at initial look. Boy, real thick lower body on him. He was a left guard at Michigan. Doesn't move all that fluid on the ground a little bit. And then I wanted to look at quick look at that Nick Harris, that center at Washington, and just undersized. Guy with him. He's probably going to be more of a late run guy. Guy that gets pushed back quite a bit off the snap and all like that. That was a guy that I looked at. I'm trying to scroll through the list here. I think that's pretty much it. So who stuck out to you at safety?
I need to watch a lot more, but Brandon Jones was the first safety I watched from Texas, and I think he's got good tape. I think there's a role in the NFL for him.
All right, so obviously we'll be getting deeper and deeper. And look, don't take these are just quick. You know, what do you look at on these guys first time through? 30, 40, 50 plays maybe?
At least 3 to 4 games, and then any other cut-ups I can find is my minimum. I don't know how many plays that equates to. I guess, whatever have 3 or 4 games worth of that is. So that's kind of my benchmark.
Yeah, are you doing that right off the bat though with these guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm trying.
Because I'm also working just as I'm writing my report. I need to watch all those games to get the report ready too.
I'm trying to learn as much as a little bit of time before the Senior Bowl. So
yeah, I know. Right before the Senior Bowl, I'll go through a bunch of guys just to kind of get a feel for them. But these are guys I'm working on my actual depot scatter. So that's why I'm going through all these games, because I'm writing the reports too.
Yeah, I'm more trying to, so I know who these guys are. A brief overview. So I'm looking. I'm spending about 10 minutes a guy on them.
Right. Gotcha.
All right. We actually got some Senior Bowl talk in there that was unplanned.
And I should confirm that Daniel and I are definitely going to the Senior Bowl. We've been approved and all that stuff. I know we hadn't gotten credentials approved yet, so flights booked, hotels booked. We'll be there at the Senior Bowl this year. That'll be a lot of fun.
All right, you two sharing a room?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Does he like The Bachelor?
He better. Monday night. We're gonna watch it.
We should have him on talk about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We'll have him on at some point to talk about
We certainly definitely will. They might like. I don't know. I might be careful. They might like you and Daniel more than they like.
They're gonna like Daniel more than me, I think. Daniel's doing it all.
He's come a long way, hasn't he?
Yeah, dude, he kills it on social mear. He's a rising star, I think.
Yep. Let's see here. In the meantime, we missing anything? I think we got it right.
Follow Daniel. Let me get his Twitter
handle
for you.
Stats Guy Daniel, right?
Yeah, there you go. Stats Guy Daniel. Give him a follow.
Yeah, give him a follow. Tell him you heard him on the Terrible Podcast too. or heard about him.
Like Tim and John Eisenberg.
Yeah,
That's how we do.
All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause during the offseason when it's slower, please do. Go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the PayPal button, upright navigational bar. That'll let you securely donate to the site. Also, maybe you want to donate to the site and help yourself at the same time. Go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upright navigational bar. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com. A lot of people are taking us up on that. It helps you. It helps us at the same time there as well, too. So until Friday, Alex and I will be talking about the next divisional round of the playoffs and previewing all that, giving you our picks and everything that goes along with that. Well, I'm sure we'll have something else to talk about Steelers related on top of that as well. So until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.